Hi again, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about PowerPoint and how to use PowerPoint to take your presentations to the next level. Now, the first principle is one that's very important for the rest of the lecture. In fact, we're just going to be breaking down this single principle for the remainder of the lesson today, so make sure to understand it. PowerPoint is a visual supplement. It is a visual supplement. So from now on, whenever you think of PowerPoint, I want you to think of it in these terms. PowerPoint is a visual supplement. First, let's look at the visual side of this term. Because PowerPoint is a visual supplement, we want to limit our text by following the 7x7 rule, and we want to embrace the opportunities to use interesting and instructive visuals. So follow the 7x7 rule, which is a way of limiting your text on the screen. You don't want a whole bunch of text on the screen. It makes it difficult to read. And then what you're doing is competing with your PowerPoint. As you speak, people are having to read along. And although people can move their attention back and forth between reading and listening to you, you can't do both at the exact same time. And so you start to have a competition with yourself when you've got a whole bunch of text on the screen. Not only is it overwhelming and difficult to read, you're also, as I said, creating a competition between yourself and what you're saying and what's on the screen. So you want to limit your text by following the 7x7 rule. The 7x7 rule states simply this: you should have no more than 7 lines of text, and you should have no more than 7 words per line of text, which maxes you out just under 50 words. Now, I actually think it's useful to use a lot fewer words on a PowerPoint slide than 50 or 49, but the 7x7 rule is a good kind of maximum for you. Again, there's times whenever you'll need to put more text on a screen for this or that reason, but usually you can actually put a whole lot less, and so I recommend doing that. You don't want to overwhelm your viewer with text, you don't want to create competition between yourself and the slide, and you don't want it to look cluttered and difficult to read. Please remember, as you make your PowerPoints, whenever you're making them on a screen usually 6 inches, 12 inches from your face. It's usually going to be projected on a screen further away from the audience. And just because you can read it on the screen as you're building the PowerPoint does not mean it'll be easily readable on a projector, on a screen, in a room where you're going to be presenting. So you need to be aware of all those things as you're making your PowerPoints. Limit your text, make sure it's a good size and readable. Next, use interesting and instructive visuals. PowerPoint is an opportunity to engage in visual communication. Visual communication is very powerful. There are things that can be communicated in visuals quickly and easily that can't be communicated so quickly and easily with words. Trends in data, complex data, can be communicated very quickly with a chart, and it would take many, many words and a lot of abstract words to make that understandable to your audience. And so you can get understanding very quickly using a visual, and maybe even better understanding using a visual in many cases. There are all kinds of different visuals that you can use to both add interest to the presentation and to make it more instructive. You can use diagrams. Diagrams are great for showing how mechanical processes work or showing abstract ideas and their relations to one another, so those can be very helpful. Maps help give geographic layouts of buildings and of regions and so on, cities. You can use photographs, which show a huge amount of information very rapidly. There's the cliche, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Oftentimes, pictures are worth a lot more than that. And so pictures can be very helpful, photographs that is. Any number of different visuals can be helpful to you in communicating what you want to communicate to your audience. So what you need to do is this. When you go to build a PowerPoint, you shouldn't simply be thinking, okay, how can I break down my main ideas into a handful of bullet points and put those on a screen? You do need to think about that. But you also need to think about how you can use visuals to help communicate more efficiently and more effectively. So PowerPoint is visual. PowerPoint is also a supplement. Supplement means that it's a help, so it's an aid in your presentation. A couple things to keep in mind here. Give the main points and make sure that they are clear. And you and your ideas are the presentation, not the PowerPoint. You and your ideas are the presentation, not the PowerPoint. So let's talk about each of these bullets. First, give the main points and make sure they are clear. Your PowerPoint doesn't need to have every single thing on it. It needs to have the main points. The idea is if you're putting text on the screen, that should be text that you're saying and that is emphasized by being put in written words on the screen. So keep it to main points, make sure those main points are clearly articulated, and make sure that those are on your PowerPoint in a helpful and readable way, as we just discussed. In addition to getting those main points up there and making sure that they're clear, you also want to remember this very important principle. You and your ideas are the presentation, not the PowerPoint. Let me explain exactly what I mean there. We call a PowerPoint presentation a presentation. It's really not a presentation. It's a series of slides with text and visuals and animations and so on. A presentation is something that you give. It's your body, your words, your ideas, and the PowerPoint is a supplement. It is an aid to the presentation. So many presenters believe that the PowerPoint is the presentation and that they, as the presenter, are there to aid the PowerPoint. In other words, they view themselves really as PowerPoint readers. The PowerPoint's the presentation and they are there to aid in the PowerPoint presentation. That is an incorrect way to view PowerPoints. You need to think of yourself and your ideas and your presentation as the presentation itself, and you need to think of the PowerPoint as something that's simply there to help. That means that your delivery, which we talked about in the last lecture, your appearance, your ideas, all of these things need to be excellent and polished. And if so, you're going to have a great presentation regardless of whether there's a PowerPoint or not. Whenever I give this lecture, I like to introduce a little bit of poetic irony into this. And so this is one of the lectures where I don't use PowerPoint at all. I simply write on the screen, visual, or I write on the board, visual supplement. And underneath visual, I give the bullet points that I just showed you. And underneath supplements, I give you the bullet points that I just showed you. And then afterward, I point out this. This was a presentation that gave you the basics of how to make a good PowerPoint. But it didn't need a PowerPoint. In fact, we didn't even really need to have the notebook that I just set down. I could have just told you these things and repeated them a few times and you could have written them in your notes and made sure that you had them to study. We don't have to have PowerPoint for this presentation to work. That's also true of other presentations that I give. All of my lectures can be given without the PowerPoint. And so that's a key thing. That's a key idea. You as a presenter should be able to give your presentation even if your PowerPoint fails. If the technology's not working, if something happens to the PowerPoint, you should still be able to give that presentation. It may not be quite as effective, of course, because your visuals may have been adding a lot. It may not be quite as effective, but it should still be an excellent presentation. You are more than just a PowerPoint presenter. You and your ideas are the presentation itself. The PowerPoint is simply there to help. So as you make your PowerPoints in the future, please remember, they are visual supplements. Use the visuals to communicate well. Limit your text on the screen. Make sure you cover those main points and make sure they're totally clear. And then also remember that as you present, you and your ideas of the presentation, the PowerPoint is just there to help. This will help you avoid all the pitfalls of bad PowerPoints and a lot of the pitfalls of bad presentation skills where you're just kind of reading a PowerPoint and not adding any dynamism to it. This is one of the reasons that I'm still an advocate of lectures, traditional lectures. It's because in a lecture hall, I not only am giving you information on a PowerPoint screen, I'm also explaining to you things. You're actually hearing it. I'm trying to put some enthusiasm and some importance behind what you read on the screen. And then, of course, we can have this interaction as a result of what you hear from me. I could, of course, just send out PowerPoints, and that could be the class, but I don't think that's as helpful as actually hearing the ideas presented from a person and having the opportunity to discuss those ideas. So remember these things moving forward. You'll make some great PowerPoints. And just like last time, you've got a very short, simple assignment for this week. I'm asking you to write out your notes, just the basic few bullet points that I gave you today. Just write out those basic bullet points, and then write underneath a short paragraph reflection, just one paragraph reflection explaining how you can take some of these things that I've discussed and apply them to your life moving forward in school or in the professional world. Hope everybody's doing well.